if you consider that 80% of the life cycle carbon emissions from your average car is accounted for by its manufacture and its disposal, and therefore only 20% is actually generated by using it, then actually getting people to ditch their perhaps quite efficient petrol cars at the moment and get a new electric car isn't necessarily a terribly effective way of reducing our carbon emissions. And of course there are other issues around the materials that goes into creating the battery technology, which itself has a major environmental impact. And none of this, it seems to me, is being properly covered. So this is partly where we're coming from on the Green Plaque. We're not trying to lecture anybody, but we're trying to empower people with information and a selection of choices, present people with a selection of choices they can make that would actually allow them to start cutting their environmental footprint without, all of the promotion and all of the stuff that, politicians and big businesses might want to get into.
The cars are interesting, isn't it? Because it has become a fundamental government policy simply for everybody to go out and buy a new electric car. £45,000. The embodied energy costs, the embodied carbon costs of producing new cars is massive.
Yes.
The payback is largely irrelevant. You don't get anywhere near it. The secondary point to electric cars is getting the infrastructure. I can't say with my hand on my heart that there's even enough chargers now for the number of cars that we have.
Yeah.
Goodness only knows what it has when this becomes enforced on you, and we have tens of millions of these cars. So the principle, of course, is a good one. It reduces significantly particulate combustion pollutions. Clearly, if we get our fabric of energy production right, then we could actually have, eco cars. But whilst 70 to 80% of our electricity is being produced from gas, then and nuclear, you could say, but then in theory that word eco in front of Ford
is completely misleading.
Is rather misleading. So again, it's a snapshot of an agenda, just simply to say that if I've got an electric car, then it's eco. And I don't really agree with that. I'm not against the principle of changing the combustion engine, because we've lived with that for a long time. So the Green Plaque at the moment is basically saying, don't go out and buy an electric car, use the car that you've got less. And so we ask you to do a diary. It would be really interesting to see how that goes, really, to see how, when people look at where they use their car, we then promote using public transport. That was a little difficult during COVID and still remains a contentious issue now about getting on a bus or a train. But in theory, what we're saying is don't panic about your car, try to use it less. That argument has been going on since the 70s.
Yes.
And we just have never really listened. And I think we're going to have a competition soon as part of the Green Plaque to see what's the oldest car in the country, what's the one that's done the most miles. Because in principle, if you're spending all of that carbon to produce a car, then let's get the benefit of that car back.
Yes.
And let's take pride and wear a badge to say that my clapped out old Mondeo is part of my family, and I don't need one of those fancy electric-y things. That's not always necessary. Then when your Mondeo, your whatever car you've got, there are other cars available, when that one actually then finally gives up the ghost, seriously think about what you're doing at that point. And if at that point it's time to buy that electric car, then do so. I'm going to summarise now. Electric cars, good long-term ambition.
Yes.
Not a short-term fix.
No.
Don't get caught out. Don't fall for it. Think about it.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Beautiful bit of summarising there.
Charlie says, don't go swimming in the rain.